So I figured for this particular video, we should resurrect one of our old friends. So I brought a little buddy here today.
Yeah, that's Flat Zach.
Flat Zach, yes.
Who says?
He says no to flat taxes. He says no to unfair taxes.
Absolutely.
He is based off of the story of Zacchaeus, which you know is a tax collector in the Bible, and the tax collectors back then are super shady and just
very bad reputation.
Took money from whoever they wanted, charged whatever taxes they wanted, and
under protection of occupying power.
Yep.
Yeah.
But Jesus invited him to dinner.
Oh, he invited himself to his house.
That's it. Jesus
dinner.
invited himself. That is right. And in response to this, because he was so amazed that happened, Zacchaeus renounced all his ways and said that he was going to give all the money that he took back and then some, and become a righteous man.
Yeah, turn his life completely around.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he went from stealing taxes to doing what is right for the people, which is a perfect segue into what is currently happening with taxes these days.
And Zacchaeus is a patron of justice in matters of taxation, and that is the reason to really resurrect him.
Yeah.
Because what just recently happened seems like being a great injustice to especially poor people and people who are marginalized, and giving tax breaks to people who don't need that and taking away money from those who are struggling.
Yeah. I've been reading a few articles on this, and it's amazing to me just how many different groups of people are negatively affected by this new tax bill, and how specific some of those groups get. So naturally, this is something that favors the super wealthy. So
and corporations.
So the poor are negatively affected. Middle class is negatively affected, but also like specifically families are affected. College students, particularly grad students, are negatively affected to the point that this is probably going to discourage a lot of people from going to grad school. Victims and survivors of domestic violence are negatively affected. This is giving them more of an incentive to stay with their abusers because of financial things. It's going to make it easier for people to find them. Like this is hurting people in levels that are just unimaginable.
And especially penalized or affected by this bill. It's still not law,
right?
But by this law are residents in states which try to be more caring for those less fortunate.
Yeah.
Those states which have higher levels of state taxation, but at the same time provide more care for those who need that. And that involves, of course, us living in New York, but many other states around us, New Jersey, Connecticut, on the other side of United States, California, and some other states there, it is really vindictively vicious towards those. I would think that they just are going after those who did not vote for them. That's as simple as that.
It feels that way.
Yeah, and it's so unfortunate and so unjust that I think that the citizens of those states should really ask their states to stand up for them as well.
Yes.
I think that it will be only just because the humanity of society is not measured by how the top echelons of that society are living.
Right.
It's measured by how we care for those who are at the bottom, how we care and how humane we are in caring for those who are, for instance, mentally ill, or who are unemployed or unemployable, and
or
underemployed, or victims of crimes and other things. That is how I believe, and I'm convinced that society should be measured, and how I feel as a theologian, God is actually evaluating those societies. If we mistreat vulnerable people, then we are under punishment, or definitely stark words are said in our direction.
Yeah, I was going to say, you have a Bible verse for that, right?
Yeah, actually the larger section of that.
That's true.
But and I can go through the Bible, like care for widows and orphans, and so on and so forth. It's in the law, it's in the Torah, but here I have a very, very, accurately pointed passage from Prophet Isaiah, the chapter 10. Doomed to you who legislate evil, who make laws that make victims, laws that make misery for the poor, that rob my destitute people of dignity, exploiting defenseless widows, taking advantage of homeless children. And that is how I feel about this bill.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm not the only one.
No, definitely not.
And I noticed that, this particular biblical passage from Isaiah, who is prophesying to his situation, but at the same time, I think highlights something which is permanent in the heart of God, and what is really high on the mind of our Lord.
Yeah.
So I think that fled Zacchaeus is another New Testament example of that, and we'll definitely hold him up. And we can go even larger. We have here bigger Zacchaeus, who is going to go to Washington.
All right.
It needs to be done, and we'll hopefully remind those guys there of his example, and maybe prophecies of Isaiah.
Yeah. Flat Zach says, stand up for fair taxes.
Yes.